Welcome to Sharpened Blade, the podcast where we turn challenges into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones for growth. I'm your host, Gio Winchurch, and today we're diving into a topic that's as real as it gets. What happens when you slip up? Maybe you quit drinking, smoking, or any habit that wasn't serving you, and then one day you find yourself back where you started, or you've been consistent in your fitness or self-improvement journey only to hit a wall and fall off track. It's frustrating and even embarrassing, and it can feel like all your progress has been erased. But here's the truth. Slipping up doesn't mean starting over. It's part of the process, and if you handle it the right way, it can teach you more than any smooth journey ever could. In today's episode, we'll explore why we slip up, how to handle the guilt, and how to turn those setbacks into valuable lessons. Plus, we'll dive into an inspiring story of someone who fell off track and became stronger than ever. If you ever felt like giving up after a mistake, this one's for you. Part 1. Why do we slip up? First, let's unpack why slipping up happens. It's not about being weak or lacking willpower, it's about being human. Here are some of the most common reasons. Old habits are deeply rooted. Our brains are wired to default to familiar patterns, especially under stress. Even after weeks, months, or years of change, these old habits can resurface when we're tired, emotional, or distracted. Overconfidence. Sometimes after making progress, we let our guard down. I've got this. We think and we stop doing the things that kept us on track. Unrealistic expectations. Change isn't a straight line, it's messy. When we expect perfection, even a small setback can make us feel like we failed completely. Life stresses. Major life events from work stress to personal losses can shake the routines we've built and lead us back to old coping mechanisms. It's important to remember that slipping up doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're in the middle of the process. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up isn't whether they fall, it's how they rise after they do. Part 2. Story. A slip up that became a turning point. Let me share a story about someone who turned a massive slip up into one of the biggest lessons of their life. Meet Jack, a 35-year-old, and he's been sober for 3 years after battling alcoholism. He rebuilt his life, better relationships, better health, better everything. But then, one weekend, he attended a friend's wedding. Jack told himself, one drink won't hurt. That one drink then turned into 3, then 5, and before he knew it, he was drunk for the first time in years. The next morning, Jack woke up feeling crushed. He thought, I've ruined everything. For a few weeks, Jack spiraled. The guilt and shame made him feel like a failure, and he kept drinking because he thought, what's the point now? But one day, he looked in the mirror and said, this isn't who I want to be. Jack realised something powerful. His slip-up wasn't the end of his journey, it was a reminder of why he started in the first place. He reached out to a support network, got back into therapy, and recommitted to his sobriety. This time, he made adjustments. He identified his triggers and created strategies to handle them. He stopped attending events where he knew alcohol would be hard to avoid. And most importantly, he forgave himself. Today, Jack has been sober for another 5 years, and he'll tell you that slip-up wasn't a failure. It was the wake-up call he needed to solidify his commitment. Part 3. How do you handle a slip-up? So let's talk about what to do when you slip up. Don't let the guilt paralyze you. Guilt is natural, but staying stuck in it doesn't help. Instead, use that feeling as a signal that you care and let it fuel your next steps. Reframe and setback. A slip-up isn't the end, it's a moment of feedback. Ask yourself, what triggered this? What can I learn from it? Get back to basics. When you fall off track, don't try to do everything at once to make up for it. Go back to the simple habits that helped you succeed in the first place. Reach out for support. Just whether it's a friend, mentor, or therapist, talking to someone can help you gain perspective and accountability. And always, always, always remember the bigger picture. One mistake doesn't define your journey. Zoom out and remind yourself of all of the progress that you've made so far. Imagine you're driving and you take a wrong turn. You wouldn't stop the car and think, well, I guess I'll live here now. You'd reroute and get back on track. A slip up is the same. It's a detour, not a dead end. Part 4. Why slipping up can be a lesson. Now let's flip the script. What if slipping up isn't a bad thing? It shows you what still needs work. A slip-up highlights areas you haven't fully addressed. For Jack, his wedding relapse showed him he needed a stronger plan for social situations. It builds resilience. Every time you recover from a setback, you get stronger. You prove to yourself that you can bounce back no matter what. Why did you start the journey? And what's at stake if you give up now? The most successful people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail, learn, and keep moving forward. Use your slip up as fuel, not a reason to quit. So here's the bottom line. Slipping up doesn't mean starting over. It's a part of the journey. It's messy. It's frustrating. But it's also where the most growth happens. If you've slipped up recently, don't beat yourself up. Take a deep breath, reflect on what went wrong, and take one small step forward. You're not back at square one. You're wiser and more prepared than you were before. Thank you for tuning in to Sharpened Blade. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And as always, I'll leave you with this. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the strengths of your habits. Until next time, stay sharp, and remember, setbacks are just setups for comebacks.